Okay, this is a game in the AMX 5100, the Tier 8 French Heavy. It's a clip tank, doesn't really have armor. It's got reasonable speed in a straight line. It bleeds speed a little bit when you turn. So a question that I get a lot in the stream is on how to play more fragile tanks and how to use clip tanks in general. And so when I played this particular match, I thought this was a good example of it. And in this game, what we really want to do, especially on Airfield, where there's a lot of little short corners where you can push around. You want to identify corners where your guys are about to push around before they do it, and be sure that you can move out, cover them, and then move back, basically. So what we want to be able to do here is take advantage of these little either gaps in their defense or our guys actually being aggressive in terms of pushing in order to use this tank, because the tank itself doesn't really have armor, so you don't want to be the sort of front guy, but you do want to be in a position where you can always support your team. And so we'll talk about how our team plays this and how their team plays this and how you can use that to your advantage. We have our 254E1 going up here. I usually like going up onto this little ramp right here just to look over here. I don't like to drive up through there because I think it's too easy to get shot, but it's one of those things where you can get a free shot of damage if for their guys that try to push up there. So our T-54E1, for example, could have gotten some free damage if their guys tried to push in, but he was going to be in my way if I tried to shoot there, so I just decided to cover the middle. And so now what I'm watching is that we've got a bunch of our heavies on the side. We've got our tier 9s over here, the T-54E1 and the tier 7-1, our KV4, some armor here. And so what I'm seeing from their team is that they've got a bunch of guys here, and we know that the T-54E1, T-29, that they're spotted on this sort of the south side of this hill here. And then see what this T-34 is doing? The T-34 is starting to roll down this way, and so I want to start going over here, and then basically I just want to see what either they send over here or what we're going to do. And see how this T-34 is rolling forward. When I see that T-34 rolling forward and I know that they're facing the other way, right? They're mostly on the south side here. What I want to do is I want to push up. So if this T-34 is going to go in and get a shot, I'm going to go in and get some shots. And one of two things will happen here. Either they'll be paying attention, right, when we come around here, and it will make it difficult for us, in which case I don't need to get off the whole clip. If I can get a shot or two, that's great. Or they're not going to be paying attention at all. And if they're not going to be paying attention at all, you want to be able to get your whole clip off.
It's a trap!
Right, and so we're able to take out their tier 9 up there. Their guys still on the other side of this, right? They can't do a whole lot about us. They're pushing this JP in here. So this is going to be relatively easy. See how that T-29 is now rotating back? And then see now what's happening now is that these two tanks, this WZ-111 and both WZ-111s, I guess, the tier 9 and the tier 8, they're both scrolling back. This T-29 is scrolling back. So what that means is that they've abandoned the south side here. So our guys over here can potentially push in now that this T-34 has occupied a lot of their attention. Right, and the rest of their team is mostly over here. They might have some snipers over here, but snipers over here aren't really that effective due to the changes in Airfield, just like the snipers over here aren't super effective until one team already starts blowing through your front line. So now I'm just waiting out the reload. So we've got an encounter going on down here, right? And see, these guys are also shifted around over here. Lorraine's over here, the heavies are over here. This WZ-111, the tier 8, is still faced on this north side, but see how both of these guys, the T-29 and the Centurion 7-1, can take advantage of that, right? They're getting 2 shots for the price of 1 there. And now this flank is open. So these guys have shifted around from one side to the other, but they haven't sufficiently protected their rears in either side, in either game. So we're able to push up here and just get the clip out on these guys as well. Right, and so we know that they still got some big tanks over here in the middle. Right, and so that was very simple, right? Our T-34 pushed around here, we pushed around behind them, got a clip off. Our T-29 Centurion 7-1 pushed around after that, right? Their defense shifted north. Our Centurion T-29 pushed around here. All we did was push around behind them or in front of them and get our clip out, right? And then just get someplace where you're going to be already safe, and then you can readjust. And then at that's pretty much the ball game. We traded so efficiently over here that it doesn't really matter too much how we do any place else. They haven't had time to kill us on any other side right now. And then it's really just mop up. They still got a couple of high tier tanks that we got to keep an eye on, the T-30 and the Conqueror in the middle. And so what we're watching here is what happens with these guys. Do they go back? Do they move forward? Do they just kind of hang out there? So we know the Conqueror is still at pretty much full health. The T-30 is getting a little bit low. We don't know what happened to these back guys quite yet. We know that we were able to push them off of this cap area, like where that Chiri is at. So they're not going to have very much up here. So we can play at the top of this ridge as long as we're safe from the T-30. This our T-29 is flanking this T-30 over here, so that's something to keep an eye on. And then now this is a similar situation. This Conqueror is headed north over here. This Black Prince is ISO'd over here. We know they've got some guys over here. But if this Type 59 doesn't get away from where he's at, he's actually ISO'd. It doesn't look like he is, right? Because there's a Conqueror right there and potentially fire support from over there. His at least one of his artillery is in duress. But if he doesn't leave there, that's actually something that makes him vulnerable where he thinks he's safe.
It's a trap!
And then he stops here, which is his fatal flaw. Because whenever you're in a clip tank, if you can track somebody out, you want to be able to do it. And then, so this T-34 is over here, right? But he can't help that guy because he doesn't have shots. The Conqueror is out of position to help. The Black Prince is out of position to help. The only thing that can help him is the M40 and 43. And so that's still an ISO there, which is something that you have to be able to identify if you're the 5100 or if you're the Type 59. Recognize when your team is sort of leaving your area. And then the game's pretty much over, so I think I YOLO here. But one of the problems, well, I'll talk about it when it happens, but one of the problems with the 5100 and the French tanks in general with these, I forget what they're called, oscillating turrets or whatever they're called, is that the gun elevation on these tanks is rather poor. So I'm going to go to the back of this Conqueror, and I'm actually going to have difficulty shooting him because I don't actually have enough gun elevation. See, I can't shoot into the back of his tank because I can't raise my gun up high enough. And then so I get shot there. And then it's just a pretty easy matter to mop things up. But so what we're talking about here is specifically in using these clip tanks and these fragile tanks. And you'll notice that what I tried to do most often, even on that Conqueror, even though I failed in the terrain, I should have driven further down here onto this sort of flat land, so I wouldn't have needed as much turret elevation to shoot the Conqueror. It also would have made it more difficult for him to turn around and shoot me. But at that point, it was the game was pretty much over, and that was not a move that we were going to survive anyways. I just wanted to get one more clip off. But that's the sort of thing that we're trying to do when you have an opponent that's occupied looking the other way. If you can go out and use your clip, then that's great. Even if it's not the full clip. In this particular match, we used full clips because we had the opportunity. A lot of our shots were into the sides or the backs of tanks and things like that. But if you only get 2 shots from your clip and you don't take any return fire, that's a good trade, you know. And then you can decide whether you want to keep that clip and go and poke someplace else, or you can, you know, reload and find someplace else to do. But you can't be married to this idea that you have to get all 6 shots off. If you get 3 shots off, that's great for none. What you don't want to do is trade 3 shots for 1 shot. In most cases, if you're going to get shot once, you want to be able to shoot your opponent with the entire clip, ideally. Otherwise, there's some situations where you can't do that. Obviously, you don't want to sit out in the open if other tanks are going to be able to start tracking on you. But for the most part, that's what you're looking to do in terms of trading with these clip tanks. And so if we look at the stats, so even though this game doesn't go very long, right? It's we're alive for 5.5 minutes. We're able to do, almost 5k damage in a tier 8 tank. Yeah, and so these 5100s, they don't have a lot of sustained DPM, but as you can see from this video, they've got a lot of burst. And so if you're bursting tanks, especially, you look at the way that we use the first 2 clips in this round, if you're bursting tanks every time you're reloaded, that's usually a good thing. That's usually going to give you a strong chance to win. Anyhow, so I hope that was helpful for playing these fragile French tanks with clips, or fragile tanks in general. And again, remember, the idea is that you want to identify what your team is doing and figure out how you can help them, without overexposing yourself. We didn't really take any very much damage at all in both of those pushes that we had, and it's just a matter of deciding when you're going to take a shot to empty your clip, and when you just want to sort of cut your losses and get some a couple of pot shots and then back out before you get shot. But don't forget, support your team. And thanks for watching.